What if the food you're giving your feline companion is actually harming them? The $29 billion pet food industry often masks harmful ingredients behind glossy packaging and enticing promises. These hidden additives can cause allergies, digestive issues, and even life-threatening diseases. Today, we're exposing the truth about commercial cat food to help you make informed choices for your furry friend. Your cat relies on their keen sense of smell and taste, not artificial additives. Their digestive system craves natural, wholesome ingredients like fresh meats and vegetables, not synthetic experiments. Think about it. In the wild, would a cat ever encounter neon-colored prey or food masked with artificial scents? Of course not. Their natural diet is simple, clean, and nutrient-packed. Why should we accept anything less for our domesticated companions? Many additives in commercial cat food exist solely to cut costs and boost profits, not to benefit your cat's health. This isn't about vilifying all brands. It's about helping you see past marketing tricks to make informed decisions. So, what can you do? Start by reading labels. Look for foods where real meat or poultry is the first ingredient. This is the quality protein your cat needs. Avoid long lists of unpronounceable chemicals, artificial colors, and vague terms like meat byproducts. Choose brands prioritizing natural ingredients and transparency about sourcing. Grains, often used as fillers, may offer little nutritional value and can cause allergies in some cats. Instead, seek healthier carb alternatives like sweet potatoes or pumpkin, which provide fiber without upsetting your cat's digestion. Healthy fats, such as chicken fat or salmon oil, are essential for your cat's energy, shiny coat, and overall well-being. Don't shy away from asking questions. Consult your vet or research trusted brands online. Feeding your cat is an act of love. By choosing wisely, you're not just filling their bowl, but nourishing their body, mind, and spirit. A well-fed cat is a happy, healthy companion. So, the next time you shop for cat food, do it with confidence and care. Your furry friend will thank you with a long, vibrant, and joyful life.
In our everyday human foods, we've got a stack of research and some seriously interesting cases to unpack, all with the head of our expert. Who's going to shed light on why these seemingly harmless snacks can be a big note for our feline friends? We've all been guilty of slipping our furry friend a little something from our plates. But what we're going to uncover today might make you think twice. Buckle up. We're busting myths and uncovering some unexpected truths about what's safe and what's definitely not. For our feline companions, let's start with a classic, chocolate. We know it's bad for dogs, but why is it even more dangerous for cats?
The culprit in chocolate is a compound called theobromine. Dogs can metabolize it slowly, but cats, they process it at a snail's pace. Even a small amount can build up quickly in their systems.
So it's not just about the quantity. It's about how their bodies handle it. What kind of trouble does this theobromine buildup cause?
Think racing heart, irregular heartbeat, even seizures. There was a study back in 2017 in the Journal of Veterinary Medicine that really nailed down just how toxic this stuff is. For our feline friends.
So that little nibble of chocolate could end up with a frantic trip to the vet. Note to self, keep the chocolate stash under lock and key. Now, this next one surprised me. Onions and garlic.
And that's where the danger lies.
I mean, they're in practically every savory dish we cook.
Even a tiny amount, we're talking a single bite, can cause something called hemolytic anemia.
Hemolytic anemia. Doesn't sound good. What exactly is happening there?
Imagine their red blood cells as tiny water balloons. Hemolytic anemia is like someone's going around popping them, causing all sorts of havoc.
So we're talking about weakness, lethargy.
Yep.
Checking those labels from now on. This next culprit is one I bet most people wouldn't even suspect. Coconut.
Yep. Those tropical treats can cause trouble for cats.
Seriously. We're talking coconut flesh, water, even coconut oil and milk. Coconut seems so healthy. What's the issue there?
It's all about their digestive system. Cats lack the enzymes needed to break down certain compounds found in coconut. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
And what happens when those compounds can't be broken down?
Stomach upset, diarrhea, the classic signs of digestive distress. So while you might be enjoying your coconut water or smoothie, best keep it far away from your furry friend.
Noted.
Okay.
Now for a confession, I'll admit I've totally given my cat a little nibble of canned tuna here and there. Is that really so bad?
A little taste now and then probably won't hurt. But making it a regular thing, that's where the problems start. Canned tuna just doesn't have the essential nutrients. Cats need to thrive.
So giving them tuna could actually lead to heart problems and vision loss.
Exactly. So while that little nibble is okay, remember, it's a treat, not a staple.
Okay. Tuna is officially off the regular menu for my cat. Let's move on to another category. That might seem surprising. Citrus fruits.
Think oranges, lemons, limes, that whole tangy family.
Their sensitive noses must really hate that citrusy scent.
You're absolutely right. But it's more than just the smell. Even small amounts of citrus fruit can wreak havoc on their digestion, leading to vomiting and diarrhea.
So no sharing those orange slices.
Oh.
Or squeezing lemon into their water bowl.
And here's the kicker. Long-term citrus consumption can actually affect their central nervous system.
No, that's something I didn't know. So we're talking about serious neurological problems down the line.
Exactly. And remember, their highly sensitive sense of smell, even the scent of citrus can be overwhelming for them. So those essential oil diffusers with citrus scents, definitely a no-go around cats.
Okay, that's good to know. I'll be ditching the citrus scents from now on. That's next one. Might shatter some long-held beliefs. Milk.
We've all seen those adorable images of cats lapping up milk, but the reality is quite different. Most adult cats are actually lactose intolerant.
So that cute saucer of milk is actually a recipe for tummy troubles.
Sadly, yes, they lose the ability to process lactose after kittenhood, so giving milk to an adult cat can lead to diarrhea, vomiting, and all sorts of digestive discomfort.
No, those cute milk ads are actually promoting feline indigestion. What about other dairy products? Are those a complete no-no too?
Not necessarily. Small amounts of cheese and yogurt, which tend to have lower lactose levels, can be okay in moderation. It's all about finding that balance.
Okay, so a little cheese or yogurt now and then is fine, but ditch the milk altogether.
Got it. Now let's talk about a fruit that's often seen as healthy for humans, but is actually quite dangerous for cats. Grapes and raisins.
This is a big one to be aware of. Even a small amount of grapes or raisins can trigger sudden kidney failure in cats. Wait, kidney failure? That sounds incredibly serious. What are the signs a cat might have gotten into those forbidden fruits?
Lethargy, vomiting, increased thirst. Those are all red flags. And here's the scary part. There's no safe dose. When it comes to grapes and raisins for cats, even 1 or 2 can be extremely dangerous.
Wow, that's definitely something to remember.
Okay.
Let's move on to another fruit that many humans love, but is dangerous for our feline friends. Avocados.
That creamy green goodness contains a toxin called persin, and it's found throughout the avocado, pit, leaves, and the fruit itself.
And persin is harmful to cats. What kind of problems can it cause?
Imagine their digestive system getting completely thrown off track. We're talking vomiting, diarrhea, the works, and in more severe cases, it can even lead to breathing difficulties and fluid buildup around the heart.
So no avocado toast for kitty.
Yeast dough.
Yeast dough. As in?
Exactly the stuff we use to make bread. The problem is that it continues to rise. Even after your cat swallows it, imagine that dough expanding inside their stomach.
Oh no, so what kind of problems can that lead to?
Bloating, discomfort, and potentially even life-threatening complications. It's not worth the risk.
So if I'm baking bread or pizza, I need to make sure that dough is nowhere near my curious cat. All right. What else do we need to be cautious about?
Nuts, particularly macadamia nuts, can cause quite a stir for cats.
Really? As well? What kind of trouble can a handful of nuts cause?
Even small amounts can lead to lethargy, vomiting, and tremors. It's not a pretty picture.
Why are nuts so dangerous for cats? What's the science behind that?
It's mainly due to their high fat content. Nuts can trigger pancreatitis in cats, which is a serious inflammation of the pancreas.
Hold on. Pancreatitis. Can you break that down?
The pancreas is kind of like a digestive powerhouse for me a little. Producing enzymes that help break down food, pancreatitis means it's inflamed and not working properly.
So no sharing those trail mix snacks with our feline companions. All right, what else is on our list of dangerous foods for cats?
Let's crack open the topic of raw eggs.
Ah, right. Salmonella is the main concern there.
Exactly. Right. Raw eggs can be contaminated with salmonella, which can wreak havoc on their digestive system. We're talking severe gastrointestinal issues, vomiting, diarrhea, and even fever.
So scrambled eggs are fine, but keep those raw eggs far away from our furry friends. Makes sense. Okay. What else should we add to our list of feline dietary dangers?
Let's delve into the world of raw tomatoes and potatoes.
No, those seem like they'd be healthy. What's the issue with them?
They contain a compound called solanine, which is found in high concentrations in the green parts of tomatoes and in raw potatoes. The problem is, cats can't metabolize solanine effectively.
So it builds up in their systems. What kind of symptoms does solanine poisoning cause in cats?
You might notice them becoming lethargic and confused, or they might even experience changes in their heart rate. It can be quite concerning.
Okay, so it's best to avoid giving cats raw tomatoes and potatoes altogether. What about raw meat? Is that a good idea for our feline friends?
Raw meat can be a bit of a gamble. It often carries a risk of contamination with bacteria like E. coli and Salmonella.
So we're talking about potential food poisoning symptoms.
Exactly. Vomiting, diarrhea, the whole unpleasant package. If you're considering incorporating raw meat into your cat's diet, freezing and thawing it thoroughly can help kill a good portion of those harmful pathogens.
Okay, so raw meat isn't off the table entirely, but it's important to take precautions to minimize the risks. All right, we've covered a lot of ground here. What's the final culprit we need to be aware of?
Let's talk about something that seems pretty basic: salt.
Salt, as in?
Exactly. The stuff we sprinkle on our food. Excessive salt intake can lead to something called salt poisoning or hypernatremia in cats.
And that's serious. What happens when a cat gets salt poisoning?
Think neurological symptoms: confusion, seizures, even loss of consciousness. It can be incredibly frightening, and in severe cases, even fatal.
Wow, that's a lot more serious than I ever imagined. So it's best to avoid giving cats salty snacks or foods that are high in sodium. No sharing those potato chips then.
Right. Cats have very different dietary needs than we do, and too much salt can throw their systems out of whack.
Okay, I'm getting the message loud and clear. Salt is a no-no.
For our feline friends, well, this has been a real eye-opener. We've covered so many seemingly harmless foods that can actually be dangerous for cats.
It really highlights the importance of being informed about their unique dietary needs, what might be perfectly safe for us.
Never thought table salt could be so dangerous for cats. So what else should we be aware of?
Let's talk about something you might find in your baking cupboard: xylitol.
Oh, xylitol. I know that's a big no-no for dogs. Is it just as bad? You bet. For cats, xylitol, that seemingly innocent sugar substitute, can actually trigger a massive insulin release in cats.
And what does that do to their system?
Imagine their blood sugar levels taking a nosedive. We're talking hypoglycemia, which can lead to a whole slew of scary symptoms.
Like what? What should we be watching for?
Weakness, lethargy, stumbling. They might even start having tremors or seizures. It's definitely a situation you don't want to mess with.
So we're talking sugar-free gum, candy, baked goods, even some medications. Anything with xylitol is off limits.
Got it.
Now,
what about alcohol? I know some people might think it's funny.
Not funny at all to give their cat a sip of beer or wine, but that can't be good.
Yeah, right.
Alcohol is incredibly toxic to cats, even in tiny amounts. Their little bodies just can't process it properly.
So what kind of damage can alcohol do to a cat?
We're talking vomiting, diarrhea, loss of coordination, tremors, difficulty breathing, and even coma. What else should we be on the lookout for?
Let's talk about something you might find growing in your backyard. Mushrooms.
Mushrooms. I never thought of those as being dangerous.
Well, some mushrooms are harmless to cats. Others can pack a powerful poisonous punch. And the tricky part is, it can be incredibly difficult to tell the safe ones from the toxic ones, especially in the wild.
So if I'm out for a walk with my cat and they start sniffing at a mushroom.
Absolutely. It's best to steer clear, err on the side of caution, and even some store-bought mushrooms can be a problem. So it's best to avoid giving those to your cat altogether. Stick to cat-approved treats.
Okay, mess. Good advice. Mushrooms are officially off the menu. Now, what about caffeine? I know it gives me a boost, but does it have the same effect?
Caffeine is actually even more potent on cats, for cats, than it is for us humans. Their little bodies are much more sensitive to its effects.
And what kind of problems can caffeine cause in cats?
Think restlessness, hyperactivity, a racing heart, and even difficulty breathing. It's like their system goes into overdrive.
So we're talking coffee, tea, energy drinks. Anything with caffeine.
Right. Is a no-go.
Right.
Keep those caffeinated beverages far away from your furry friends. Stick to water for their hydration needs.
Okay. I'm making a mental note of all this. Now, this next one seems a bit strange. Unbaked bread dough.
It might seem harmless, but unbaked bread dough can actually be a double whammy of danger.
Double whammy. For cats.
What's going on there? Remember how we talked about yeast dough continuing to rise in a cat's stomach? Well, unbaked bread dough contains raw yeast, which can ferment inside their stomach, and guess what fermentation produces?
Alcohol. And we already know how bad that is.
Exactly, for cats. So on top of the potential for bloating and discomfort, you're also adding the risk of alcohol poisoning. It's definitely not worth the risk.
So if I'm baking bread, I need to make sure that unbaked dough is locked down tight, far away from any curious feline paws. Now, Speaking of baking, what about nutmeg? Is that a safe spice?
Not so fast. For cats, nutmeg contains a compound called myristicin, which can have some pretty wild effects.
Wild effects on cats?
What are we talking about? Think tremors, seizures, disorientation, a racing heart, and even hallucinations. It's like a bad trip.
Wow. Hallucinations in cats. That's pretty crazy. So even a sprinkle of nutmeg on a holiday treat could be dangerous.
Absolutely. Skip the nutmeg
Yeah.
and stick to cat-friendly flavors. Their taste buds will thank you for it.
Okay. Nutmeg is officially on the naughty list. Now, you mentioned macadamia nuts earlier as being dangerous for cats. Is there something specific about macadamia nuts?
Macadamia nuts, that makes them even worse than other nuts. Contain a toxin that can really mess with the cat's nervous system, muscles, and digestion. They're particularly potent when it comes to causing trouble.
And what kind of symptoms should we watch for if we suspect our cat has gotten into some macadamia?
Weakness, tremors, vomiting, diarrhea, lethargy. They might even develop hyperthermia, which means their body temperature gets dangerously high.
So no sharing those macadamia nut cookies with our furry friends. They're better off sticking to their own cat treats.
Yeah.
What else? Should we be cautious?
Let's talk about something. That might seem like a natural treat for cats, but can actually be quite dangerous. Bones.
Bones, as in...
Yep, leftover chicken bones or steak bones. Those can be a real hazard for our feline friends.
I could see how they could be a choking hazard. But are there other risks?
Absolutely, as well. Cooked bones are particularly dangerous because they tend to splinter easily. Those sharp splinters can cause serious damage to their mouth, throat, stomach, or intestines.
So no matter how much they beg, it's best to avoid giving cats any type of cooked bones. Got it. What about fat trimmings?
Fat trimmings are another one to avoid.
Why is that? I mean, cats eat meat, so a little fat shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, quite right. That high fat content can trigger pancreatitis, remember.
Right. That's the inflammation of the pancreas. So those fatty scraps are best left in the trash, not in our cat's food bowl. Makes sense. Now, what about liver? I thought liver was supposed to be nutritious.
While a small amount of cooked liver now and then can be okay, too much liver can actually be harmful.
Hold on. To cats.
Too much liver. I'm intrigued. Why is that? It's packed with nutrients. Right, that's the catch. Liver is incredibly rich in vitamin A, which is essential for cats. But in excessive amounts, it can become toxic. It's all about finding that balance.
So what happens if a cat gets too much vitamin A?
It can lead to all sorts of problems. Bone problems, stiffness, loss of appetite, and even deformities in kittens born to mothers who consume too much liver.
So liver's on the sometimes treat list, not the everyday food list.
Yeah.
Noted. Now, what about raw fish? I know some cats go crazy.
Raw fish can actually be a bit, for fish, of a risky business.
Oh no, is it safe? What are the dangers lurking in that seemingly innocent fish to give them raw fish?
First, there's the risk of parasites. Raw fish can contain parasites that can infect your cat and cause all sorts of unpleasant symptoms.
Like what? What kind of trouble can parasites cause?
We're talking vomiting, diarrhea, weight loss, and a whole host of other health issues. It's not something you want your cat to deal with.
So that's one reason. To avoid raw fish, what are the other risks?
Raw fish also contains an enzyme called thiaminase, which can actually destroy thiamine in your cat's body.
Thiamine. That's important vitamin.
Absolutely. Right, thiamine is essential for their neurological health, and a deficiency can lead to serious neurological problems.
So feeding them raw fish regularly could actually lead to a thiamine deficiency.
Exactly. It's best to err on the side of caution and avoid giving your cat raw fish altogether.
Okay. Raw fish is officially off the menu.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about raw eggs earlier, but what about just the whites? Are those safe?
Raw egg whites.
Okay.
Kids' hounds contain a protein called avidin, which can interfere with the absorption of biotin.
Biotin, that's another important vitamin.
Biotin is essential. Right. What does biotin do for cats? For healthy skin and a shiny coat. It's basically their beauty secret.
So eating raw egg whites could lead to a biotin deficiency. That would explain why some cats have dull coats.
It's definitely a possibility, especially if they're eating a lot of raw egg whites.
So it's best to stick to cooked eggs
Yeah.
for our feline companions. Got it.
What about almonds? Those are a healthy snack.
Not necessarily. For humans, so they must be okay.
For cats, too. Right.
While almonds aren't as toxic as some of the other foods we've talked about, they can still cause some digestive upset in cats.
What makes almonds so difficult for cats to digest?
Their high fat content can be a problem,
Uh-huh.
and some cats may also have difficulty digesting. the almond skins. It can lead to tummy troubles.
So it's best to avoid giving cats almonds. What are some other healthy snacks that we can give them instead?
There are plenty of great cat-specific treats out there that are both delicious and nutritious. Stick to those, and you'll be golden.
Okay, noted. Now, we talked about grapes and raisins earlier, but I think it's worth emphasizing just how dangerous they are. Absolutely. For cats, it's something every cat owner needs to know. Grapes and raisins are at the top of the list. When it comes to toxic foods for cats, they can cause acute kidney failure, which can be fatal.
And even a tiny amount can be dangerous.
That's the scary part.
Right.
Even 1 or 2 grapes or raisins can be enough to send a cat into kidney failure. It's something to be incredibly vigilant about.
So keep those grapes and raisins under lock and key, far away from any curious feline paws. All right. This has been a whirlwind tour of dangerous foods for cats.
It really is eye-opening. I'm honestly shocked. It goes to show that what might seem harmless at how many things to us we need to be mindful of can be extremely dangerous. For our feline friends, their bodies just process things differently.
Well, I've learned a lot today, and I'm sure our listeners have too. We'll be back in just a moment to wrap up our deep dive into toxic foods for cats. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our final dive into the world of foods that are dangerous for cats. We've covered a lot of ground, but there are still a few more surprises to uncover.
I'm all ears. After everything we've learned, I'm starting to think I need a complete guide to cat-safe foods. What else do we need to watch out for?
Remember how we talked about onions being particularly dangerous for cats? Well, even a tiny sliver can cause something called Heinz body anemia.
Heinz body anemia. That sounds serious. What exactly is that?
Think of it this way. Their red blood cells are like tiny oxygen carriers, delivering oxygen throughout their bodies. Heinz body anemia is like someone sabotaging those carriers, making them weak and fragile. They break down easily, causing all sorts of problems.
What kind of problems are we talking about? What should we be looking for?
Weakness, lethargy, pale gums. You might even notice their breathing becoming more rapid. And in some cases, they might even develop jaundice, where their skin and eyes take on a yellowish tint.
So no sharing those onion rings or sneaking them a bite of your French onion soup. Onions are a definite no-go for our feline friends.
Exactly. Now let's talk about something that might seem harmless, but can actually be a real problem for cats. Table scraps.
Table scraps. You mean like sharing our leftovers with them? Why'd that add idea?
Table scraps can be a minefield of hidden dangers for cats. Think about it. Our food is often loaded with fat, salt, and spices, all things that can upset their delicate digestive systems.
So what's the best way to make sure our cats are getting all the nutrients they need without any of the harmful stuff?
Stick to a balanced diet that's specifically formulated for cats. Those foods are designed to meet their unique nutritional needs and keep them healthy and happy.
Great advice. So while it's tempting to share our meals with our furry companions, it's really best to keep their diet separate and tailored to their specific needs.
The key takeaway is to be informed and vigilant. Remember, many foods that are perfectly safe for us can be hazardous. For our feline friends, do your research, talk to your veterinarian if you have any questions, and always err on the side of caution when it comes to their diet.
Absolutely. Our cats depend on us to make sure they're getting the right nutrition and staying safe from harm. So while we might enjoy a wide variety of foods, it's important to remember that our cats have different needs. Their health and well-being are in our hands.
Well said.
Toxic foods for cats. We hope you found it informative and maybe even a little surprising. Remember, knowledge is power when it comes to keeping our feline companions safe and healthy. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.